Today on DNVR Buffs Live, the Buffs got 2 more commitments this weekend. We debate whether or not the Dark Horse is a dive bar, and at long last, a new hit piece has dropped. Let's get it. Let's go!
Coming to you live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. It's DNVR Buffs Live. Hope everyone had a great weekend. It's back to business.
It is. I think that productivity would go up in this country if every weekend was a 3-day weekend.
That's the argument for it, and I think you're right.
I feel so refreshed, so clear-minded.
Just going to bed Sunday night and realizing, oh my God.
I know, dude.
One more day.
I kept forgetting all weekend. And then it would just hit me again, and I would be just as happy as the first time I thought of it.
I just wanted to talk to the person who came up with the 5-day work week. I just wanted to talk.
Yeah,
I'm not mad. I just want to talk. Because who thought the balance of 5 work days and 2 days off made sense? Don't 4 and 3 sound like a bit more balanced, right?
Probably a Nebraska fan because there's nothing else to do out there.
I can see that. That would make some sense.
On today's show, yes, we will have the dive bar debate over the Dark Horse. The EA College Football 26 cover is out. We'll talk Dorian, Barney, Janari Carr, college football playoff. We're in a playoff war. Did you know that?
A playoff war?
Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll talk about the hit piece, but we have 2 commitments to start off with today. That is former UCLA offensive lineman Walker Anderson and former Wyoming cornerback Tyrecus Davis. Tyrecus Davis, former teammates with Preston Hodge at Navarro Community College, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Walker Anderson, a young player, was on UCLA's team last year, did not see game time, but 4 years of eligibility, 6'8", 330 is what he's listed at.
Yeah, Blocker Anderson in the mix. Kind of a flyer, I think. Honestly, to me, he kind of replaces Jay Gardenhire, where it's like this big developmental project with a lot of physical gifts that can be molded into potentially a big time player. So someone that, is probably not going to be an immediate contributor. Be surprising if he was, but a lot to work with there.
Mr. Anderson. That just made me think of, you see Matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like those bots or
yeah.
Mr. Anderson. That just made me think of that. But like you said, this is somebody who clearly has a massive, massive size. 6'8", 330 plus pounds. We're not expecting him to really see the field this year, but a year from now, 2 years from now, that might be somebody who could really play a role and be a problem up front, assuming he continues to get developed the right way. And why wouldn't he under, Coach Gunnar White and Andre Girard and Big George Hageman? Tyrecus Davis is a guy that really has my attention. We talked about the secondary of Colorado quite a bit and how we're excited about the potential, some of the experience and production from guys like DJ McKinney and Preston Hodge and even some new guys like Tion Parks. But Tyrecus Davis probably has some of the most experience in that cornerback room right now at this point, right?
He's got 1 year to play, yeah.
I know, right? He's played a lot. The last 2 years at Wyoming, I'm pretty sure he was a 2-year starter, played quite a bit, as you mentioned, at Navarro Community College before that. And again, DJ McKinney last year was really his first year as a full-time starter.
Yep.
Obviously, Preston Hodge has a lot of the experience as well, only with 1 year left. But after that, RJ Johnson hasn't really seen the field. Tion Parks has seen the field quite a bit the last, I think, 2 seasons, particularly last season at Illinois State. But after that, we're talking about Makari Vickers, who hasn't played a lot, and obviously Noah King, who's a true freshman.
Yep.
Ivan Yates, who's coming over, last year didn't play a lot at Colorado, but Tyrecus Davis has played a lot of football. And he has played some good. I've seen clips of him, locking down Xavier Worthy in one-on-one coverage, making an open field tackle on the Ashton Genty potentially. So Tyrecus can play. Don't be fooled by his 5'10" listing, which I don't think is a major deal anyway, but this young man can play, and he's played a lot of football. And clearly he's coming to a place, like you mentioned, with 1-year eligibility. He's coming to prove, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was in the rotation or potentially was that third, maybe even fourth cornerback for Colorado this fall.
Yeah, a bit smaller of a cornerback than what we're used to seeing Colorado target. Particularly, you look at Noah King. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds.
Yeah.
6'2", yeah.
Yeah. So
let's talk about that though.
sure.
Because that was a big reaction that I saw. I was like, I thought Coach Prime didn't like sub 6 foot corners or whatever. What do you think the thought process is there? Is there a potential that maybe they see him inside? What do you think?
I think there's a potential for him to play some nickel corner. Obviously that's where we saw Preston Hodge mostly last year. And I think they probably feel comfortable with Preston playing inside and outside. But Tyrecus has the ability to do that as well. Play outside, play the nickel as well. I think his size maybe suggests to a lot of people that he's probably best playing inside in the slot and nickel corner. But I think the thought process behind this ad was just that he's played a lot of football, and we have some young bucks in our cornerback room. Again, aside from Preston and DJ, there is some I don't want to say uncertainty, but just some youth. And Tyrecus brings experience. I would assume leadership as well. So I think that's really the main thought process behind this ad.
Yeah, we never really saw it last year, but Preston Hodge has quite a bit of versatility in his bag too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Hell yeah.
he was he just manned down the nickel corner spot last year. He didn't really have to move around, right?
Yeah.
And he got hurt also later in the year too, so that maybe played a role. I'm not the biggest fan of thinking about moving him out of the nickel personally. I'd rather
he's
keep
really
him there.
natural there.
Well, and you have bigger corners too, and RJ Johnson and Tayon Parks, potentially Noah King, who could also profile more as an outside type of corner, right? So we'll see where Tyrecus fits in. But just, Preston Hodge he's just your nickel corner. Like I just don't think it's the best process to move him around.
The only thing I'll say about Preston is I think a lot of people, for lack of a better term, have a bad taste in their mouth because he got quote unquote beat on the long ball from Kansas State that ended up being the game winner. One, he was in close, very good coverage on that.
Yeah, it was a hell of a catch.
Yes.
And a throw.
2, perfect throw. No defense for a perfect throw.
Facts.
3, he should have never been alone with no help over the top with the game on the line like that.
In that situation.
And 4, Travis was hurt.
Well, yeah, that's why he had to play there in the first place. So just, the most important point of that I wanted to make is he was actually stride for stride on that play.
You just get beat at cornerback sometimes.
Yes. Especially on a throw like that.
And he did the following game was the UCF game where he had arguably the biggest play of the season, the interception against UCF.
Facts.
The game after that Kansas State
That was after it?
Yeah, they had a bye the game after that. But that was the next
No,
game.
that was Baylor.
Kansas State was later in the
You're
season.
right. I read this in reverse. UCF was the game before Kansas State. That's my fault. But that just made me think about when you mentioned when he was hurt last year, late in the season. That was Carter Stoutmeyer at nickel, and that didn't go particularly well. Like Carter seemed like he is more of a field safety. He's a safety, right? As opposed to guarding dudes in the slot, and we saw some issues with that in the BYU game. So I'm thinking potentially with this Tyrecus Davis ad. At the very worst, if Preston Hodge can't go for some reason, you have somebody who you feel comfortable or is comfortable playing in the slot, that nickel corner.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah, going back to Preston just a little bit, like being able to play, I think it's the hardest corner position.
It is for sure.
And so if you have someone who can do it and do it well, you keep them there.
Well, and to go back to really just like the foundational aspects of the defense, like if you watch Cincinnati's defense when Livingston was there, under Lou Anarumo, the nickel played a massive part. That was like the joker of the entire defense, if you will. They were blitzing, they were moving around, they were traveling, they were in the box, they were off coverage, all kinds of stuff. So that's just Preston's spot in my mind. But how do we feel about the depth? at this point of the offensive line and the cornerback room with these two commitments. And are these the last commitments we're going to get this offseason?
I'll say no to that second question. There'll be a random one that pops up at some point.
They do have the camps coming up, particularly the post-grad camp where transfers can come in and work out and get offered and stuff.
They found a couple guys through there. I can't remember.
No one really did anything.
Yeah. Is it Javon Antonio?
No.
No? Okay. But I do feel good about the depth at those positions now. They've definitely filled in those rooms. I've honestly always felt good about the offensive line depth. This is just another piece added. Yeah. Corner definitely could have stood to add another one, and maybe they could even stand to add one more.
Right.
But I still feel good about it.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about the cornerback room. I think Tyrecus gets added to a cornerback room that I think, aside from maybe right tackle, is probably the position battle that I'm most excited to see how it unfolds. Kind of that third cornerback behind DJ and Preston. Whether that's RJ Johnson or Tion Parks or Tyrecus here, that's going to be something that I'm going to be watching a lot, and how that unfolds, this summer into the fall, because that third cornerback is going to be on the field a lot.
Yep.
And they're probably going to get a lot of balls thrown their way as well. So whoever that is better be ready, and even that fourth guy is going to have to be ready as well. So I feel pretty good about the cornerback depth there, and I would expect at least one more. Two as well. Two guys that I kind of still have on my radar, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, if these guys have already committed, but one guy who got an offer from Colorado, I think a couple weeks ago, Andrew Smith from Alcorn State. We talked about him on the show briefly. Last few seasons, 89 tackles, 17 PBUs, 3 picks. He played against Travis and obviously Jackson State a few years ago. He is still out there. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he is.
And the linebacker as well from North Alabama, Sean Myers, who got an offer, was on a visit as well. I don't think he is committed anywhere. So if I had to guess, one of those two guys would probably be the next transfer commitment I would expect. They're at 14 right now. I think we heard that they want to add 15 this spring portal. So expect one of those two guys potentially to be the next kind of guy in line.
I think Andrew Smith has committed, actually.
Where to?
To Tennessee Tech.
Interesting.
So
interesting. But yeah, I mean those two position battles, right tackle, CB3. I'm gonna be watching those very closely, and I'm excited to see how those unfold.
Definitely.
I think we all feel good about the offensive line. Someone doesn't, though. Wish I could tell you who. They're anonymous.
What?
Yeah. New hit piece just dropped.
I see what you're saying.
So this, I guess, multiple Big 12 coaches anonymously spoke to Athlon Sports about Coach Prime in Colorado. We just run it back, bro. Just the same thing.
Yeah.
Why are you answering the phone for Athlon Sports?
I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Makes no sense.
We should honestly try to do an anonymous coach story this year.
We should.
Seems easy.
It seems extremely easy.
You ready? The author of this?
I don't know who wrote the Athlon piece, but Dan Morrison rewrote it up for On3.
Did he not link to the original Athlon piece?
I don't think so. He's got Athlon in italics. That's it.
Okay.
I don't see a link.
Interesting.
The only links are Deion Sanders, Colorado, Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter.
Got it.
Gotta get that.
Got them all. Got them all.
In that first paragraph, too. They're smart.
Exactly. Yeah, they know what they're doing. First quote. "It's still a circus," an anonymous coach said. That's not an insult to Deion, but it is. They're saying that Colorado still a circus even after Shedeur and Travis.
How would a random coach on another team have any idea?
I would love
about
to know
the inner workings of Colorado over the last 2 months.
Yeah, pretty much.
People got to get that hate out their heart, man. Because that's what that comes down to. If you don't really know what's going on, because how could you if you're a coach at a different program in the Big 12? There's no way you really have any idea what's going on, and that's just hate. You want them to be a circus. You want them to be a circus, and that's what you're saying.
I think what I'm starting to realize, which maybe I've always known, but is that everyone just thinks that anything that happens at Colorado is bad because it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that Colorado operates is so different from what everyone else does that if you aren't doing it that way, you're just inclined to say like, oh yeah, that's a circus over there.
Yeah. I think that's a good point because I think, again, I'm trying to make sense of this circus quote. And I'm trying to put my mind in maybe an anonymous Big 12 coach's shoes. But I think one thing they can maybe point to in terms of Colorado doing it differently is the fact that they only have one commit in this 2026 class, which I don't think is a problem because I think this 2026 class by the end of it is going to be elite. But right now with them only having one, that is not how traditionally recruiting works in college football, especially if you're looked at as a Power 4 program at the top of the top. Typically at this point, you have at least 5 to 8 guys locked in for your 2026 class. But because Colorado only has one and because they typically, attack the transfer portal and really are selective about the high school recruits that they go after, somebody might look at that and be like, oh, that's a circus. They're not taking recruiting seriously, which is wrong and hateful and misguided.
Just think about though, like if someone asked you a question about a rival of yours and you knew there was no possible repercussions of anything you said, like you're obviously going to talk way more out of pocket.
100%.
And that's the other thing to me is just like the person knows exactly what the reporter's looking for. They already agreed to do this. And so they'll play along much more easily than if their name had to be tied to it. So it's not only the cowardice of hiding behind the anonymous source thing, but it's the I'm gonna play it up a little bit because this is never coming back.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure. They never say, oh, someone just joined the staff from there or a player just came in, or like they never talk about like where these like accusations come from of circus and all that.
And here's the other thing with
out of their head?
the circus accusations. Based on what
Exactly,
Colorado,
right.
like whatever you want to call what this was before, which I would have never used the word circus. But Colorado is now like there's nothing coming out. You know what I mean? There's no Twitter beefs. There's no the post-spring game concert, everyone has to go to Shedeur's. Even the fake stuff, there's nothing for anyone to even latch onto right now. There hasn't been a quote-unquote controversy that are usually made up anyway, but there's been nothing that came out this offseason where it was like, oh, here we go again,
Yep.
And that's why they had to make something up. They had to get to these anonymous sources. Get Colorado in that news cycle somehow because they know that's going to sell.
Been too long. That's what it was.
It's been too damn long.
That's what it was. We'll dig into some of the other quotes on the other side of this break. And shout out to our friends over at First Bank. Whether on the road, at home, or somewhere in between, First Bank makes banking easy, convenient, and secure. Their mobile banking app allows you to check balances, pay friends, and manage your money anytime, anywhere. And here's the best part. Open a new First Bank checking account today and you could earn $300. First Bank is all about helping you stay on track. Their tools make it simple to stay in control of your finances without the hassle. No matter where life takes you, First Bank gives you the freedom to bank how and when it works best for you. So if you're ready for better banking and the chance to earn a little extra, head to efirstbank.com/bonus. That's efirstbank.com/bonus to open your account. Bank how you want, when you want with First Bank. Certain restrictions and requirements apply. Member FDIC.
Also, shout out to our guy, John Joda, who on the Bronco show this morning told us that thanks to DNVR, he is a proud owner of a new Toyota.
Shout out,
Toyota
John.
Sienna.
Let's go.
How cool is that? And Toyotas are just the absolute best. This weekend, it poured rain here in Denver.
Yeah.
And I was driving home, and everyone was driving so slow. And I was like, why is everyone driving so slow? I'm like, oh, they don't have Toyotas. They don't feel comfortable in any and all conditions. And they know that's the choice you could make. Or you can make the choice to visit a Fire Range Toyota store near you and end up with an awesome new Toyota like our friend John did. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corbin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is a proud partner of CU Athletics and the official vehicle of DNVR. Let's go places.
So we got one buzzword in circus, right?
Yes.
We got another one. It will be interesting to see how Dion manages the culture here. Another Big 12 coach said, this is a roster with big holes and a lot of questions.
Big holes.
How he manages the culture. What does that mean?
I don't know. No idea.
For real, what does that mean?
I have.
He is the culture
That's
now, first off at CU. Like,
First of all, that's exactly what Coach Prime would say if you brought up that word to him.
yes.
But that would have been a more relevant quote when they had 70 new transfers on the football team. This is a team that had a lot less turnover than they're used to over the last 2 years. And if you want to talk culture, the culture has been established. It is very obvious in my opinion. And that was last year. I felt like they were much more self-aware of the type of players that fit that culture and did a much better job of getting guys that did because it was evident. This year they're even further down that road and will be even better at it.
For sure. Last one says
Landon with the brand new 2025 4Runner.
Let's go, Landon.
You lit, my
Sick.
dog.
Shout out to you, bro. Last quote. They've turned over a ton in the portal, a Big 12 coach says. And they're trying to make it out like it's a competition-based result, but they're really going to struggle on the offensive line because of transfers again.
Can you read that second part again? The competition-based part?
They're trying to make it out like it's a competition-based result, but they're really going to struggle on the offensive line because of transfers again. They're talking about the portal. They're basically
Does that make sense to
saying
you?
they're basically saying higher number in the portal equals win.
Are people saying this about Texas Tech?
Wait, but I read that as like competition-based result, meaning like some of the people that left didn't want to see competition.
That's what I'm saying. That part is confusing to me.
Yeah.
I took it as he's talking about the portal, as meaning that like they just boosted up their portal numbers, like off-season winner type of thing is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just
again,
no matter
it's
what
a stretch.
Miss guy.
obviously.
They didn't even really. I don't feel like they hit the portal as hard as they did last year, and obviously not the
No,
year
right?
before.
Like 32 or
yeah,
something.
exactly. They're
Which,
a lot more selective this year with the guys that they brought in.
yes, which that and West Virginia has added just as many, if not more.
Yeah, Texas Tech,
North
has added a
Carolina,
bunch
Texas Tech.
in the conference.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I mean, there is some. I think there is some validity to they're probably going to have 4 new offensive lineman starters, and probably all of them are going to be transfers, aside from Jordan Seaton, obviously, which could potentially be an issue. But that's what you got to do if you're Colorado, right? I mean, you can't run back that offensive line from last year, the year before. Of
course.
And these additions, as we talked about, the Xavier Hills, the Zy Chryslers, are the best caliber of offensive line transfer they've been able to get since Coach Prime has been there. So. Yeah, I don't. 0 for 3 on these quotes.
You know what's
Of
crazy?
course. Of course.
Especially, and this is just the facts, the journalistic integrity of Athlon Sports has already been
It's
highly questionable.
In the gutter.
Yep.
If you're putting out one of these pieces with anonymous quotes from Big 12 coaches, you could literally make them all up.
Yeah.
Never thought of that because it hadn't crossed my mind. But as we were talking about this, I'm like, wait,
I think it happens.
any coach could think like, well, it wasn't me, but it could have been anyone.
Exactly,
You know,
sure.
there's no way of you even being held accountable for that.
Yeah. We'll do some journalism and find out some other anonymous quote.
I'm gonna talk to some
coaches.
anonymous journalists at Athlon.
Absolutely, we will.
I mean, what would stop somebody from doing that if there's no accountability from the top, right?
Right, and like I said, we've already seen that they're fully willing to blur the lines
Yeah.
on what's real and fake.
Of course. It's good to be back. Last paragraph, of course, ends talking about the NFL and Coach Prime's future.
Nice.
We just played all the hits.
Yeah. Traffic was down.
That it was.
Wow.
All right. We are in a college football playoff war, in case you didn't realize.
I did not realize.
I don't know what happened here. I don't know. Greg Sankey talked a lot, the commissioner of the SEC, over the last few days about the playoff. Of course, we got the reseeding. We talked about that last week, right?
I don't think we did.
You weren't here.
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about it.
We talked about it though.
I love that, by the way.
So yeah, basically for 2025, we're set. We're good to go, right? But they're still having all these discussions and meetings and proposals and all this stuff for 2026 and beyond, because we're talking 16 teams. You know, is this current seeding going to stay? Are we going to incentivize conference title games again or conference championships again? Anyways, I'm not going to bore you with the whole details. He said a lot, but basically they're saying they want more spots for the Big Ten and ACC, right? More at-large bids.
SEC.
SEC, yes. And so the ACC and
they want them guaranteed.
Yes.
Okay.
The ACC and Big 12 basically are calling out Greg Sankey, saying that like some press release that went out was not actually sent out about like playoff changes. So the Big 12 like proposed and ACC, they proposed this new system. Sorry, I don't have this one pulled up. This is from Brandon Marcello at 247 Sports. The tweet says ACC and Big 12 presented and endorsed a 5+11 CFP format, which is 5 AQs and 11 at-larges in meeting with the Big Ten and SEC this month. Big Ten and SEC have not yet endorsed a plan in the meetings, but they obviously want to load the playoff with as many Big Ten and SEC teams as possible.
Yeah. So it would be the Power 4 plus the highest ranked.
G5
yeah.
and then 11 at-larges is what the Big 12 and the ACC just proposed.
But the SEC and Big Ten want 2 AQs.
Or more. They want guaranteed spots for the
fucking
SEC
break,
and
bro.
Big 12 or Big 10.
You don't deserve anything guaranteed if you didn't win your conference.
I agree.
That's a tangible thing that you did. You won the conference, you're in no matter what. That's fair. Anything else, second place? You want a free handout for second place? And by the way, guess what? You're getting in anyway.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're going to get the benefit of the doubt if you're the SEC team or a Big Ten
Yes.
team anyway. And that's why we can't have these representatives from the SEC and the Big Ten making these rules.
Yes, and by the way, just
That's why the ACC and Big 12 have come
Yeah.
together. They're like, nah, we're putting our foot down.
That's why
here.
we need somebody above all of them.
Yes, bro.
A uniform leadership to figure this out, because there's going to be the ACC and the Big 12, they want one thing. The SEC and the Big 10, they want other thing. And they have two completely different viewpoints. And there's never going to be a middle that makes everybody happy.
why would anyone compete in a conference championship game if both teams that make it are automatically in the playoff?
Yeah.
I don't know.
To hang a banner.
Yeah, I mean that part is worth something.
Sure,
But at
but-
the same time, you're trying to hang a real banner, a
Exactly.
championship, and so you could very easily make the case of like, okay, we're in, we're not going to play.
And we already saw parts of that last year with the SMU head coach. He was like, listen, we are doing our team a disservice playing this championship game against Clemson.
Absolutely.
He said, we're going to go out there and play it, but this is not right. That we could get punished or hurt by losing
Playing an extra game.
Playing an extra game and potentially losing
Yeah.
it. We could lose out in the playoff. And obviously they made the playoff, but still, that was a real possibility.
Yeah.
From the article that Brandon Marcello wrote, he says a source familiar with the playoff discussion said the ACC and Big 12 are, quote, prepared to fight and will not lay down.
Let's go.
I feel like that boy, your mark not going. He not going to fold.
He hasn't said anything yet. I can't remember the ACC guy's name. I think he said something recently. But Yormark's been quiet recently. We know that he can bring some fire to the table.
Big Yormark not gonna go for the foolishness. He gonna slide for the Big 12. Make sure the Big 12 go right.
CFP execs are expected to meet in person on June 18th. So that's the next date in this. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. Obviously, we're good for right now. We got the House versus NCAA settlement still coming down supposedly soon. We're wait and see mode. That's the latest update, though.
It's crazy that we're this far. Like, college football has been around for
100
over
plus
100
years.
years. And we still haven't like figured out the right format for crowning a champion.
Yeah, I know.
100 years. Like last year, I think Ohio State, no one can make the argument that they weren't a deserving or worthy champion.
Sure.
That they made it through that. But the system was not perfect.
No.
Not at all.
And it made for some dumb results and games and just setups. I'm glad they fixed the seating part because
For this year, we'll see if they keep
right,
it.
and it's just like we should have gone at least 2 more years with this system before we make any more changes.
Well, and I was listening to Josh Pate this morning, and he brought up a good point too. When this whole thing was going down, like CFP expansion, like 4-ish years ago, right? When they were talking about expanding it initially, it obviously came to fruition last year, right? That was the first year of the 12-team playoff. So when these discussions were happening, realignment didn't really kick off yet in terms of all the big ones, the Texas, Oklahoma, the USC, UCLAs, the Oregons, Washingtons, all those, SMU, Stanford. That hadn't really kicked off yet. So I think that was college football is just an ever-evolving, just constantly changing league, organization, group of leagues, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And it moves too fast for its own good sometimes. Like, we just can't iron these things out because we're changing. We have this house settlement that's going to restructure the entire, foundation of college football, basically. What happens after this drops this summer?
For sure.
Yep.
It's just...
It could undo everything.
Yeah, we're constantly trying to keep up with our own selves here.
Yeah.
You're right.
What?
Oh,
Well, we're taking a break. And shout out to our friends over at FanStake, a dope new app that allows you, the fan, to get directly invested into your favorite teams. The Buffs are actually the 5th most popular fan base over on FanStake, so go hit them up. What is FanStake? FanStake's a platform where you, the fan, basically can pledge NIL money essentially to potential additions, potential recruits, transfers, and also players who are already on the roster at Colorado or whatever school you want to do, really. Of course, we'd prefer you pick Colorado, but it's risk-free as well. If you put money on a player, say in the portal, and then they choose to go to another school, that money just goes back into your account. You can put it on another player. You can stake someone already on the roster if you want to do it that way. FanStake is currently offering new fans a free $25 credit. No credit card required or strings attached. We're encouraging everyone to join us in staking Julian Lewis today. Stake the future of the program with Julian Lewis.
Mr. Nobody in the building except me.
He is, he's different, huh?
Yep.
The Enigma.
Click the link in our description, scan the QR code, or just head to fanstake.com and use promo code DNVR to help keep Julian Lewis on the Buffs.
And shout out to the squad, our good friends over at UC Health, y'all. Listen to this. Next Thursday, June 5th, is the 7th annual UC Health Healthy Swings Charity Home Run Derby. Denver Broncos players like Cortland Sutton, Alex Singleton, and Marvin Mims will be stepping up to the plate at Coors Field to raise money. UC Health has donated over $900,000 to local charities over 6 iterations, supporting Coloradans with food insecurity, cancer screenings, and veterans' mental health challenges. This year's beneficiary is Freedom Service Dogs. Freedom Service Dogs provides service dogs to individuals with limited mobility, young adults with autism, veterans, and first responders to help with disabilities like PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, and more. The DNVR Buffs Show is brought to you by UC Health, the official healthcare partner of the Colorado Buffaloes. Learn more about living like there is a tomorrow. Go to uchealth.org for more info. UC Health, live extraordinary.
Did you see Corey's quote tweet of Julian's message?
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday was the Boulder.
Yep.
Right.
And it creates a lot of havoc
Sure.
in Boulder, including the fact that it ends at Folsom Field.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on around
Yeah,
Folsom
they run
Field.
through the gates, right?
Yes. And Corey said that Julian called him 47 times trying to figure out how he could get into the parking garage so he can get his work in.
Let's go, man.
That's hilarious.
Love it. Let's talk recruiting. Janari Carr set a commitment date over the weekend. He will be committing on June 25th. The 4-star IMG Academy interior offensive lineman. Scotty, you spoke to him, and he seemed to come away pretty fond of Colorado and Coach Prime.
He did. He really enjoyed his visit. Just some couple quotes from my conversation with Janari when I talked to him about a week and a half ago, I think at this point. Just a reminder. He goes, I could definitely see myself playing at Colorado. I love what they have going on with the coaching staff. Who wouldn't want to play for a coaching staff made up of ex-NFL players? They've already been to where I'm trying to get. Like I said, he loved his visit. Talked to our guy, Coach Cliff, again this past weekend. He said Colorado was very much in the mix here for Janari and his recruitment that he's announcing here in just around a month, right? Less than a month now. So Florida's still very much in the mix as well.
Yep.
But he has clearly made a decision. And one thing on Florida, he's obviously said his commitment day. He hasn't even really taken his official visit to Florida yet. He's visiting Florida this weekend.
Yeah,
so,
he's got a few more, I think.
So it makes me think he's clearly already knows where he's going, in my mind at least. So we'll see where that ends up. Again, Janari, a 4-star offensive lineman from down there in IMG, a trench dog, as he calls himself.
We'll see on him. Dorian Barney. We've talked a lot about Dorian Barney. I think maybe we talked too much about Dorian Barney.
Yep.
He set a commitment date for July 5th, so that's about a month away. And he's got a top 4. Georgia Tech, Michigan, Penn State, Texas A&M. That's it.
Colorado was in his top 12 and then his top 6.
Coach
Didn't
Prime
make the top 4.
FaceTiming him. Connection with Julian. Is this the next, firework in recruiting?
What do you mean?
Could be, bro.
He pulls a hat out that's not all the 4 schools listed.
No.
Fair enough.
I mean, I kind of retold the story of, Seaton's,
Yep.
commitment and recruitment process last week. And again, 2 weeks before he committed, he dropped the top 5 or 6. Colorado was not listed. And again, at this point of the game, in this day and age of college football and recruiting, I'm not counting anything out until signing day, until boys signing on that dotted line, because anything can happen, anything can change. And especially when you have the connections that Dorian Barney already has to Colorado.
Yep.
Most notably Juju. I'm not going to rule him out just yet. But as we talked about last week, he has been crystal ball to Penn State. Dorian Barney has. So that's where I would expect him to end up.
It's not goodbye. It's see you later.
Thanks.
Did you see Box's tweet from over the weekend? The Shock the World tweet?
Yes.
Did you see the significance of that potentially?
You tell me.
So Vance Spafford, the Georgia wide receiver, when he came on his visit, took the pictures and all that, posted them on Instagram, captioned "Shock the World." Someone else did that as well. They put that as their song on an Instagram post. I don't know. I can't remember who it was exactly. I don't want to throw a name out there who it wasn't, but I think it was a very, very high-profile recruit.
And I think there was another layer, too, where Vance had commented on another CU recruit's Instagram post saying "Shock the World."
Yep. And Julian is recruiting, on Twitter at least.
Oh, yeah.
And that has a potential double meaning or reference back to the Fab Five.
Does it?
Yes. There's a famous quote from, I believe, Juwan Howard, might have been Jalen Rose, who said, we're going to shock the world.
I can see it. That would a point you brought up yesterday, and I think you had said you had saw it on Twitter, where this recruiting staff is kind of moving like they got something.
I'm feeling it too now, bro.
Yeah. At this past weekend is one too many kind of breadcrumbs where I'm like,
Shout out to my guy Miles, who was the first person who originally
Shout
tweeted
out Miles.
that. Yeah.
Yes, DNVR's up in here, baby.
For real.
Quick shout out.
Go ahead.
I want to, because I gave a shout out to Miles here for having that original tweet where he said, I have a theory. The recruiting staff feels good about a certain big name prospect, and by nature, they're offering other big name prospects under the come join him pitch. Seems like a lot of those types of offers lately, big game hunting.
It's
Hell
true.
yeah.
Also, a shout out to my guy Corey, who I saw bartending downtown on Friday night. Said he's a big fan of the show. Hooked
Shout
it
out
up.
Corey.
A lot of people showed love on Friday at the Rockies game.
Hell yeah.
Which was really, really cool.
Did you get rained out?
No, this was Friday. It was.
Oh,
it
that's right. Friday was beautiful.
85.
Yeah.
It was an epic night, man. And I'll say it once, I'll say it a million times. It's my favorite thing when people come up and say something in public. So you guys have full license to come up to me. If I'm in a conversation, it's fine. It'll look cool to whoever I'm talking to.
It's all about the optics.
Yeah, man.
Can you pull up that tweet, Yo-Yo? So, College Football 26 dropped the cover today. That's, I think, the deluxe one. The main one has Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams on it. So 2 big-time sophomore wide receivers. We're looking at the image of it here, though, of the deluxe edition. Not really seeing much black and gold, but CCU.
Yep. The only thing anyone outside of Nebraska knows about Nebraska is that they're obsessed with CU.
Your use of the words complete and utter in this tweet, perfect. It just wouldn't hit the same if you just said their infatuation, but the complete and utter infatuation just really sends this one home.
Yeah, and people in Nebraska probably thought I was talking about a cow when I said utter.
For real. You probably lost them with that one. They were like, all right, I know what complete means, but utter? I don't know about that one. What is this guy trying to say? True. I just when they got that far in the tweet. It's crazy.
This is the greatest day in Nebraska Twitter history, though. They're going wild over this.
Look, I think that cover sucks in the first place. I don't like the everyone gets included thing, except for somehow we still didn't get included, which is weird.
How do you not have Coach Prime on that, bro?
Or just anything Colorado, the biggest brand in college football right now. Whatever, that's fine. I would just remind them that they gave some participation ribbons out on last year's cover, and only one player earned their right to be on there, and that was Travis Hunter.
Put some respect on my guy, bro, please.
Nope.
I mean, a lot of coaches, you're right, man. How they put all these coaches on here, but they want Coach Prime on here. That's crazy.
I saw Crying Ryan and Dan Lanning on there. What are we doing?
If I'm Coach Prime, I'm saying, I'm not joining this collage.
You know what? Facts.
It's true.
You want me on there?
I need to put me on the Prime edition.
Yeah. You want me on there? It's me, Juju, and Caden.
Facts.
There you go.
Like James Franklin on here, man. Come on.
Yeah, we got all the weirdos on there. I'm surprised Gundy's not on
Your
there.
boy Kenny D's on here. There's some cool format, like Reggie Bush being on here is kind of cool.
Denard's on there?
Yeah, Tim Tebow's being on here is pretty cool. It's interesting.
I do like
Who's the Boise State?
Bro, they got random fans in here too. I got a Toledo fan on here, bro.
Lord, shout out Toledo.
The Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith one is cool.
Yeah, that one's dope. Actually, we get a reveal trailer on Thursday for the game.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that then. I'm hyped. And then, was it July release date, right?
Yeah,
Sounds
July
right.
10.
Yeah. I think I'm done with video games, man.
What the hell, man?
I just have
I don't believe you.
I have too much of an obsessive personality. So I've just decided to put all my obsession into golf.
Fair enough. That's
healthier.
That's
True.
crazy, though.
I feel like you'll be back this summer, though.
There's a chance.
When
You're
that
not
game
going to play with
drops.
Julian Lewis and CFB 26, bro. Come on.
But if I do, then I'm going to want to be in the league and I'm going to want to win championships.
I just play solo on that game now. That's all I do.
Yeah, maybe I will bring back Coach RK.
It's only right.
Yep.
I don't know. We'll see.
I'll bring the stream back for it.
Is that Bryce?
Yeah. Bryce is on the cover.
That's cool.
Bryce Underwood.
True freshman who's never played it down on the
Yep.
cover. Nice.
Next to Denard.
There is a guy wearing black and gold in it, and you can't tell what team he's representing, but it doesn't look like the Buffs.
Last thing. Would you do you want the Google definition of a dive bar, or do you want to share yours first?
No, let's go ahead. Well, let's all give our opinions on this first. Scotty is, first of all, for those who don't know, Dark Horse, probably the most legendary boulder bar. I would call it the most legendary boulder bar. The reason this came up was twofold. One, I saw a debate on this on another platform about what a dive bar is. Your boy, actually.
My guy, I was going to say, my guy started that.
Your boy, Nicky Smokes, apparently had some egregious takes. I don't know the Chicago bar scene enough to know how egregious they were.
He was getting cooked for that though.
And then I had my 15-year high school reunion this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, how'd that go?
It was cool. It was kind of weird, kind of cool.
Was it at the Dark Horse?
No.
Oh, okay.
But so I was at it was at Upslope Brewing, and then I was going to our friend Nina and Will. Nina's birthday party was at the Dark Horse. So like all of my friends and stuff were trying to figure out where they were gonna go, and I was like, well, I'm going to the Dark Horse. And I think they were probably just like, well, we don't have any idea better than that. So then it was like a second reunion, went to the Dark Horse. So then we were hanging out at the Dark Horse, and then I thought about that debate I saw on Twitter. I was like, do you guys think this is a dive bar? So that's where this is coming from.
Interesting.
Your take?
My take on if the Dark Horse is a dive bar or dive bars in general.
I want to hear if you think it's a dive bar first.
So I have been to the Dark Horse one time,
Okay.
and it was on a Saturday. Like I said, it was during a bye week, a Colorado football bye week this past season during the fall. My answer of whether the Dark Horse is a dive bar, I say no.
Okay.
And my answer is the reasoning behind that is because it's too big.
Okay.
In my opinion, dive bars have to have a few things. They have to be pretty small. Mm-hmm. They have to be pretty dark, dimly lit, which the Dark Horse does check that box, obviously. And yeah, it just has to have a small, timey kind of almost kind of dirty kind of vibe to it.
Grimy.
Yeah, and Dark Horse is just a little too big and a little too clean. You know what I'm saying? So that would be my answer over that.
Jake?
I don't know. Scott just threw out some interesting points because it is big.
It's massive.
Yeah, I think of like a dive bar. It's super local, right? Mm-hmm. But it's also just not like the actual town watering hole. It's just it's almost like a hidden gem type of thing.
Right.
And the Dark Horse is
everybody knows it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's one of the places you go to out there.
I feel like that's part of the reason Nicky Smokes was gonna kill for his list, because he was like, bro, everybody knows about these places and everybody loves these places. Name an actual
They were just killing him because they were like, he thinks if it's not a club, it's a dive bar. So I agree with both of you guys, but on Twitter I put out the poll. Is the Dark Horse a dive bar? 266 votes. 62% of people say yes. And here's why I disagree with 62% of people.
Yeah.
You hit up some of them, but here's the most important one to me. To me, a dive bar does not have a kitchen. And the Dark Horse has not just food, great food.
Yes, it does.
And so to me, that part is disqualifying. You're lucky if a dive bar has frozen pizza that they'll heat up for you for $8.
Yeah, they have a bowl of nuts on the counter.
A dive bar staple is popcorn. You just got a little popcorn machine,
Exactly. Something to stave off your drunk munchies and keep you drinking, but not real food.
Facts.
The other thing is, dive bars have no legitimate decor. Mm-hmm. It's just some post, a Broncos schedule poster that they got in 1997 that they just left up because they won the Super Bowl that year.
Sure.
Maybe a couple neon lights that were sent to them from Coors Light or whatever. The Dark Horse has the most intricate decor of
for real
any place I've ever been, and the thing is the Dark Horse does an incredible job of having authentic dive bar energy without being an actual dive bar, like you said, too big. Mm-hmm. And then the last one for me, a real dive bar. You're thinking twice before you order anything other than a beer or a one alcohol, one mixer drink.
Yes. You're not getting no fancy cocktails.
No,
and
you're
dive
worried
bar.
that the bartender will shame you publicly. If you went to the bar and said could I get a Manhattan? The bartender would maybe say get the fuck out.
You gotta be kidding.
And that I'm pretty sure you could get away with ordering a legitimate cocktail at the Dark Horse, even though I would probably think twice before I did it. So that to me is there's a dive bar right next to my house. It's called Williams Tavern. It's the size of our studio, maybe.
Right.
The only deals or anything they have is a PBR and a shot for $5.
Yeah.
Very dive bar.
And I'm I almost feel like I have to act a certain way when I go in there, so I don't give off too much I don't know, non-dive bar energy. Yeah, exactly. It's I gotta maintain a low profile in here. Great place to walk in and say, "Can I get a Coors Light?"
Thanks.
So there you go. That is my case for why the Dark Horse is not a dive bar. even though it feels like a dive bar, which is kind of what gives it such charm.
I was gonna say that's a massive feather in their cap to not actually be a dive bar, but give off dive bar vibes.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
I think part of the reason they're so popular.
Exactly. It's like you can go in there and get that dive bar energy and then also have like a fantastic burger.
I
Yep.
swear.
All
Shout out to
well,
the
that's
Dark
weird that
Horse,
we're
man.
all in agreement on this because I asked a lot of people this on the weekend and it was all.
I thought you were gonna say.
I
yeah.
thought you were going to say it was.
contested.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say yeah.
No. Nope.
On that definition, I went to a dive bar in Vegas last time we were there, and that was
Off the strip?
yeah,
Off Fremont?
yeah.
Oh.
Dude, it was when we were there for Pac-12 tournament. Do you remember the story? I was out with J Mike.
I think I
There's a lot of this story that's not for the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went to a dive bar, and that was like super dimly lit. Like there was maybe 6 people in there. We were off the strip. Like yeah.
You walk in and you're like, everyone here feels like they've been here maybe forever.
Right. Like, am I walking into a motel or a bar? Like,
Do these people live here? Why does everyone know each other but me?
anything else before we get to questions?
I had one thing that I came across before the show that I thought was pretty interesting. This is from Chris Hummer at CBS Sports /247 Sports. There was a study that came out about basically non-transfers are more likely to be drafted. And they did data back, and this is kind of similar to
Oh,
when
is
we
this
were
the
talking about the
247
tackles.
piece? They did a big transfer portal piece.
Anyway, there's some data that came for this result. They looked at transfers from 2018 through 2021.
Yep.
The top 247. Those guys, transfers, were drafted at a rate of 11%. Non-transfers from the same classes were drafted 53% of the time. So it was just an interesting kind of idea and something to think about, obviously, in this day and age of the transfer portal. And again, we kind of talked about a little bit with Seat last year with the numbers on offensive tackles in the draft who don't transfer versus transfer in their kind of NFL prospects. But clearly the data is out there. If you stay at one place, you're more likely as an elite recruit to go and get drafted as opposed to bouncing around to a different school or two throughout your college career. I just thought that was interesting.
That just makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
If you're a big time recruit and you show up to one of those schools and you don't transfer, it's probably because you're good and you're playing.
Facts.
The guys who transfer are, 1, either not good, or 2, they're not playing. So
Yeah.
Yeah, 247 did a whole deep dive on something like that. Going back to like 2018, they threw out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. 5 times more likely to be drafted if you don't transfer.
I can see that.
Anything else?
Let's get to the comments.
What's up, chat? Girls Club says, I'm so confused with what high turnover did they hit this year? Did they say that about any other teams? No. Of course not.
Facts.
West Virginia is in the same conference. Actually, let's pull up the West Virginia numbers because
Texas Tech's another one. I saw a
Exactly.
thing, I don't know if it was real, but someone said that the rumor is that Texas Tech is spending upwards of $50 million on their football team this year.
Wow. I don't know if
And then
that's legit
they
either, but-
apparently also just gave $1 million in NIL to a softball player,
how?
like the best
Wow.
softball recruit.
I mean, they swimming in it, ain't they?
Well, they
for
got
them.
oil money from that guy, right?
And one
Yeah.
more thing, too, about Colorado's transfer portal class. Between the spring and winter, 30 commits, according to 24/7 Sports. I think they're missing one. I think Luke Whiting is missing on that, the long snapper. So I think it's 31. But either way, 30 commits this offseason. Still a top 20 transfer portal class. Number 19, according to 24/7 Sports. So it's not just quantity that they're adding, but a lot of quality. And I'm just going through this list of other teams in the top 25. North Carolina added 41 commits this offseason, bro.
You want to talk about a circus?
41, exactly. 40, Ole Miss added 30.
Did you find the West Virginia numbers yet? Because I'm telling you, there's a ton of them.
Arkansas has 31. Mississippi State has 33. UCLA has 30. Virginia has 31. Houston, also in the Big 12, has. West Virginia got 52,
Yes,
bro.
I'm trying to tell y'all.
52?
Yes.
Oklahoma State got 40. Cal got 38. UCF also in the Big 12, 41.
Nasty work.
But Colorado the circus though. Purdue
Nasty
got
work.
54, bro.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's half their roster.
And when Coach
Pretty
Prime
much.
did it, it was
She shouldn't be doing that.
yeah.
Not allowed
You
to.
shouldn't be doing that.
Not allowed to. Can't do that. No, sir.
Wow, man.
The fact that multiple teams, like several teams, are turning over 50 players
Yeah,
is pretty crazy.
And no one bats an eye.
No.
No. But I mean, just in the fact that 2 years ago when Coach Prime did it, it was
We were fighting.
experimental, all these different words.
We were in the trenches fighting every day then, bro.
Yes. But the fact that that's now normal, I don't think is a good thing for college football.
And I don't remember any of those teams coming from the depths that Colorado had to come from. I don't
No
remember those
one.
teams being 1-11. West
Purdue
Virginia
was
won-
pretty bad.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I get
crazy.
a lot of comments from my friends being like, it's too hard to follow now. It's not worth falling in love with any players or recruits.
people here say that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, as much as I totally understood why we did it and why other teams would do it too now, given the fact that it worked for Colorado,
yeah.
I don't think it's a good thing for the sport.
Well, this is part of the thing that might drop in the next week or two with the House settlement. It seems like a lot of college coaches want to get rid of the spring portal. They just want one portal period.
I don't know how much that'll change. Maybe it will change some stuff. I almost wonder if there should be a limit on. I guess you can't do that because it depends on how many people transfer out.
Yep.
But it almost feels like because there's a limit on how many incoming freshman recruit you can have. I wonder if there's a way to limit how many transfers you can have.
I don't know.
What would you put that number at?
25.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But it won't work because everything that's happened has been to give power back to the players,
Right.
which I'm for.
So am I.
But at the same time, that creates more holes which then the teams have to fill.
Right.
And I don't know how you would police it with like teams encouraging players to leave, which also obviously happens
Right.
all the time.
Atlanta Stay Focused and Informed says, why is it none of the so-called media are not talking about how Coach Prime and the Buffs are now consistently competing?
Because no one knew that they weren't before.
Yeah.
Everyone, especially all of the people who are just running their mouth on Twitter and the new media, they act like Colorado football started 2 years ago.
Yep.
And they don't understand how down bad the program was for 20 years before Coach Prime came in. And so they think 13-12 is a dunk. And I think 13-12 is a miracle.
Dave, we got to wrap up here shortly. Dave Rich says college needs to go to a pyramid system with promotion/relegation system like European soccer. It's the only thing they do better than us overseas. One, I 100% agree. Two,
Never
there's
happening.
so many schools that would never sign off on that.
Yeah, no one would do it. I mean, it
In a
would be
perfect
sick,
world, yeah, it'd be amazing.
Yes.
But
Give up my FBS standing? Hell no.
the
Yeah,
money
they not
and
gonna
stuff that goes into all that.
For
it's-
sure.
come on, bro. Purdue's a proud program. Master Stickwork says, what's the reason these recruits that visit are not coming to see you, in your opinion? It's early still, for one.
Yeah. Taking their time.
Yeah. Really, that's the main reason, too. If you're mentioning the 26 kids.
And also, when you're playing in the big leagues, you're going to lose a lot of battles.
That's
No
the
doubt.
other thing. Kamada says, is Folsom Field installing a new stadium? Lighting and sound equipment for the season? I do not think so. We're getting the new turf now, though, because the Boulder's over.
Yep. But why would they need new lighting?
I don't know, they just installed the ribbon last year, so I don't know.
I think the lighting is perfect.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Maybe they're talking about a light show. Something.
Sound could
Oh,
use.
yeah, you're
Oh.
right. They could do that.
And then Kamada asks, what kind of food are you looking to eat when DNVR is on the road?
For me, it's all about what's local.
Yeah. I think that takes first priority.
Anywhere in Texas. Texas ain't missed yet.
I feel like we go for
Yeah.
what is this place known for? We're having that. And then we usually get Mexican food.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
When we were in whatever town that was north of Lubbock,
Yeah.
when we got that delivery Mexican food that first night,
Yeah.
that was fire.
That was.
That did hit, actually.
And it was cheap as
I
hell.
was skeptical too. I'm like, I don't know about this.
No,
But
that
it was
that
decent.
went hard.
We got so much food that it was delivered in like a moving box.
Pretty much. All right, we got to head out. We'll be back tomorrow. And we'll see y'all then. Let's go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs.
We all silly like the mayor.